Hello, my name is McLovin. This is the final video in a 4-part series on troll biology. If you haven't checked out the first 3 parts, do that. You don't have to watch those to watch this one, but I will be referencing them, so, give them a watch. This is gonna be fun, so strap in. Also, I think I make a trigger warning in the actual video, but there's biology shit in here, like blood and bugs, so don't watch if you don't want to see that stuff. Thank you. I love you. As we saw in the last 3 videos in this series, there are 3 predominant theories that emerge about trolls biology: human trolls, furry trolls, and bug trolls. Now, if you're an adherent of human trolls, then all you need to know about trolls is contained in the canon information video. If you're a furry troll advocate, then enjoy the last video. Furry trolls are adorable and would make excellent fodder for a fanfic or AU, but what I want to talk about today is something that has significantly more precedent, something far more plausible. I want to discuss insectoid trolls.
Back here again, can't get enough. JoJo explains some interesting stuff.
The main leaping off point for insect theory is, of course, reproduction. I won't put too fine a point on it yet, but basically, trolls are at least bugs during some of their stages of life. They're born as insectoid wigglers, they pupate, and they all hatch from eggs from a mother grub. It's also canon that they don't have nipples, and while they do have body hair, some bugs also have hairs, which means they are not necessarily mammals. It's clear that trolls then share most of their anatomy and life cycle with bugs, specifically insects. Fine, so they're bugs, but what kind of bug are they? There are many real-world analogs that we can draw from and sort of layer on top of trolls as convenient, which I'll be doing presently. Also, for the sake of viewers who dislike bugs, please feel free to check out now. There are going to be bugs in this video. There are going to be a lot of bugs in this video, so only proceed if you're okay with that. I understand. In nature, there's a term for organisms that have queens and a stratified caste of young: eusociality. Primarily, 4 types of insects display this and have queens, or for troll purposes, brood mothers: ants, wasps, bees, and termites. Now, some species of these insects, namely wasps, can reproduce parasitically, i.e. they lay eggs in a host. This is obviously not related to trolls, so let's dispose of this. What we're interested in are typical examples of eusocial species. So what insect is most similar to the troll? Well, bees and wasps can be discounted quickly. Both of these create intricate nests which aren't seen in Homestuck or its related materials. Once hatched, the adolescents pupate entirely inside of a comb, emerging as adults, unlike trolls. Ants are a little more similar. They lay eggs from which larvae emerge, which then pupate into mature adults. This also goes for termites. Critically, however, termites do not pupate, instead having a nymph stage. Trolls, then, are a mix between ants and termites. Essentially, they look like termites with a gravid queen and a grub-like appearance, but they mature like ants with a quick larval and pupa stage. This also tracks with how the larvae of both species act, i.e. searching for nutrients close by, like trolls searching for nutrient-rich stalactites. The resemblance doesn't stop here, however. Ants and termites both have a different gender system to that of humans. Instead of 2 singular genders, there are distinct castes, each with different features. Here's where things get interesting. For those unfamiliar with the ant life cycle, broadly, ants reproduce using 3 components: queens, workers, and soldiers. The work starts with the queens and males. Males will deposit sperm into the queen, who stores it inside her body to be released selectively. A queen can either choose to fertilize or not fertilize her eggs. Unlike in mammals, unfertilized eggs will still produce young, though in this case they all become male. The female worker ants are larger and more robust, however they are incapable of mating, sometimes able to have singularly male offspring. The queen can also choose to lay virgin queens to then inhabit new colonies with new males. So basically there are 3 types: queens, males, and females. Females do work, males help reproduce, and queens have all of the eggs. Sometimes virgins will leave the colony to make new colonies with males, these winged males referred to as king ants. Now, looping back to trolls. Here's where the fun begins. First, let's get the obvious parallel out of the way. The queen of troll society is the mother grub. She has the eggs and is responsible for reproduction. That was easy. The next part, however, I absolutely adore. So much like the queen ant can have different gendered offspring, the mother grub can also select which gender their offspring will be. So, does this mean that male trolls are unfertilized and females are? Well, no. Female gendered trolls are involved in the troll mating process. Ergo, all trolls as we know them are sexually male. In other words, since all trolls we see in Homestuck are capable of reproducing and producing, quote, genetic material, they are male worker individuals. But that begs the question then, who are the female soldiers? Easy. Drones. Think about it. Drones are larger than trolls, they're not involved in mating except in a facilitative capacity, and they have to perform defensive work for the colony. Not only this, but we have evidence of king individuals as well. King ants are particularly robust males who are tasked with fertilizing virgin queens going into new colonies. Who in Homestuck is a particularly robust individual tasked with taking care of a virgin queen and her egg to establish a new colony? Kanaya. In fact, the whole rainbow drinker phenomenon could be for this very purpose. A particularly physically excellent sexual male tasked with the perpetuation of a new colony. Critically then, it's important to establish the difference between sex and gender in troll society. It would be better to refer to genetic sex in a way other than male, since so-called sexual males identify as female gendered in troll society. In other words, trolls don't have sex as we know it. Their genders, male and female, are unrelated to their reproductive status or caste, unlike many humans. Now, before we marinate in the fact that I've just blown the whole thing wide open, let's talk about the implications at play here. First of all, the elephant in the room. I just claimed that all trolls we see are male. This, of course, is just in a sexual capacity and not a social one. Vriska is still a girl despite her sex. As always, gender is a societal construct. Next, let's talk about some things that ant-troll theory doesn't address, namely blood caste. There's no analog to this in any creature that I know of. Any creatures with non-red blood have no interspecies blood color variance. Really, there's no existing science on anything like this. Some spiders have blue blood, but again, all spiders have blue blood interspecially. In other words, the explanation for this will have to be similarly extravagant and not tied to real-world stuff. This also doesn't account for the actual mechanics of mating, which is what we'll get into next. Finally, none of these reproductive facts account for trolls' physical appearance. In other words, they all address how do they reproduce, but not what are they materially. Let's bridge the gap and talk about some holes in troll anatomy. Literally. Okay, before I continue, I'm going to talk about things in a euphemistic way. YouTube doesn't want me talking to you about Whoopi, even if this is ostensibly a biology class about a species that doesn't even fucking exist. But I'm not going to use any dirty, gross words or even pictures. I'm going to go halfway and trust that you guys, the viewers, can go the last half yourselves. So, how do trolls fuck? Yeah. Well, in bees, the males deposit the genetic material manually into the queen herself. Genetic diversity is achieved by males mating between colonies. This obviously is not possible for trolls. For starters, it's clear that 2 partners are necessary to produce genetic material, which is then collected in buckets by drones, then delivered to the queen. The drones then likely make a deposit into the queen somewhere. She might have an opening, or it might be injected. Also, as far as we know, there is only a single fertile mother grub on the entire planet of Alternia, as well as the virgin, who cannot reproduce as she has not been fertilized. This means that one mother is responsible for all offspring on Alternia, which means she likely lays hundreds of thousands of eggs at a time. Genetic diversity then is achieved by mingling fluids, both with mate pairs and inside the mother grub herself. The mixture referred to in comic as a slurry, implying that it is all free-flowing within the mother grub. Unfortunately, Andrew Hussey also refers to this as incestuous, implying all trolls come from the single mother grub and are therefore technically all related to her singularly. It's also likely that the mother grub can stockpile slurry inside of her body, as occasionally trolls will have genetically identical ancestors, meaning that occasionally a pure genetic sample will fertilize an egg, essentially organically cloning the original troll. It's unknown if this is a feature of normal trolls, as the homestuck trolls do not reproduce via the mother grub, but it's likely, since on Earth-C there is a clone of Riscus Circuit born of the Earth-C mother grub. The mechanics are easy to deduce from how trolls discuss things. The term bulge has been used several times, and it's easy to infer that trolls use this bulge in intercourse. After mutual stimulation, genetic material can be collected, usually in buckets, as evidenced by their bucket-related taboo. It's likely that every troll possesses the same bulge, though it is impossible to say. Some have posited that there could be also a nook, since this term is also used, though this could be in reference to the excretory system or some kind of cloaca. The bulge could be retractable. This seems very likely, since trolls have no outward trace of it on their clothing. Again, two partners need to be present for mating, meaning that it's likely that trolls are unable to produce genetic material without a pair. Again, this is likely for genetic diversity purposes. Due to the fact that genetic material is collected in buckets, it's likely that it is excreted in copious amounts. So to recap, again in a way that is YouTube-friendly, two trolls mate using their unspecified reproductive organ. Material is excreted and brought to the broodmother, where it is stored and used to fertilize eggs, which hatch into young trolls and drones, and, when she is ready, virgin mother grubs. Oh, I think that's as good as it's going to get. Honestly, presented in hyper-YouTubified format, it sounds a lot more disgusting, in my opinion. But there you have it. That's the moment you've all been waiting for, the sex ed part of the troll video. Oh, but we're not done yet. We're out of the woods vis-a-vis slurries and organs, but we're not done. Oh no, I didn't go through that whole Twitter thread for funny troll sex ed. We're going to incorporate other theories into this. I want to cover a few things, some brief, some not. They are as follows. 1. Other mother grubs. It appears that Alternia has one singular mother grub. The main evidence for this is that we never see another mother grub, but it's possible that it's not necessarily the case. There could be a few arrangements. Firstly, there could be one mother grub that furnishes the entire troll race with wigglers. This seems the most likely on a meta level, but least likely on a logical level. In other words, in comic, another mother grub is never mentioned, but it would mean that trolls could go extinct just from killing one mother grub. Another possibility that's similarly likely but less tenuous in a biological sense is if each extant troll colony had its own mother grub. For instance, Alternia has one, then each colony that the Condes conquers contains one as well. This could be similar to how bees and ants reproduce. Queens lay virgin queens who then establish extant colonies elsewhere. A third option is there to be actually many mother grubs on Alternia. This would be the most logical, since not only would this prevent extinction risk, it would promote biodiversity. Something I've seen posited that long ago there were many mother grubs, each one with an associated fuchsia blood ruler, and at some point, the Condes conquered every other colony on Alternia and established herself as the planetary ruler. We'll call this event unification for the purposes of the rest of the video. Since this is very unexplored, it's impossible to know, but this seems likely as a single mother grub doesn't seem particularly evolutionarily viable. 2. Grub Scars. A lot of people know about this one. I'll keep it simple. In Friend Sim, we see Malik shirtless, which gives us a few critical clues about their species. They have no nipples or belly buttons, of course, since they're not mammals, but they also have strange protrusions from the ribs that match their blood color. It's likely that this is what have been referred to as Grub Scars, the remains of the troll's vestigial legs as it exits pupation. This would make sense, as even undergoing a metamorphosis, the biomass would have to go somewhere. 3. Horns. Horns, by and large, for trolls seem vestigial. They're never shown to have a purpose, either social or biological. Karkat's horns are sometimes referred to as nubby, which is basically the only time any troll acknowledges their own horns. Even this is hard to understand, since sometimes nubby horns seem to be a status symbol, and sometimes people seem to be making fun of him for it. Speculating about their purpose, then, is hard. Since there's never any moment where trolls use their horns for defense or attacking, we look to some social function, but horn features are never prized. This is something of a wasted potential, and furthers the theory that trolls are just gray Humalians. The speculation, then, can only be that they are indeed some vestigial organ which serve no purpose at all, much like the human earlobe. In a perfect world, they would be used for some purpose, maybe as a weapon, maybe for defense, or maybe as a perceived mark of masculinity or status in troll culture, but sadly, no subtext exists. They're just kinda there. 4. Chitinous skin and skin thickness. The biggest difference between bugs and trolls is their size. This means that while they are similar, there have to be some critical scale-based differences. For starters, bugs are covered in a chitinous exoskeleton, which would not seem particularly functional on a large-scale organism like a troll. Firstly, the chitin would be far too brittle, causing frequent cracking and damage. Secondly, it would impede mobility, and trolls are shown to be very mobile indeed. Lastly, it would be too heavy to carry around. There are a couple of other miscellaneous problems with chitin, and it's likely that trolls grow, they'd have to shed their skin somehow, which we never see. Given all this, there are a few conclusions we can draw, from least to most likely. Least likely, but very cool, is that trolls do indeed have exoskeletons. Their exoskeletons might be plated like lobsters, with protruding flesh underneath the joints. This has basically no canonical backing, it's just badass. Second most likely is that they have normal flesh. This follows the aforementioned gray Humalian idea, and makes sense because trolls are never shown in comic as having any kind of stiff skin. Most likely, however, is that trolls have some kind of chitin that is less like lobsters and bugs and more like a rhino or elephant skin. This is a bit of a stretch since trolls aren't mammals, but their skin thickness could be due to evolution as large bugs. Rhinos and elephants both have skin that is very thick and coarse. Notably, rhinos also have protruding horns. This thick skin allows for total coverage instead of plating and has some interesting properties. For one, rhinos are prone to sunburn. Remind you of anyone? Rhinos also need to roll in the mud to achieve moisturization and protection against insects and UV light. Trolls are also shown rolling around in a mud-like substance, albeit a neon green one. Soper slime could be analogous to this mud-rolling behavior. It's not one-to-one, and it's not a bug thing, but it's very likely that trolls have some very thick skin. They're very hardy compared to humans in comic, and flesh wounds seem to be less debilitating to them. 5. Blood. I'm gonna be honest, if you're wondering why troll blood is multicolored, I genuinely don't have an answer for you. There's no reason in nature for interspecies hemocolor, and it doesn't seem to function differently from troll to troll. Therefore, instead of a biological speculation, we're going to engage with magical speculation. The mother grub probably pigments troll's blood in certain ways using various magical chemicals. It's likely she has an innate sense of how much this chemical to dole out, and each chemical both colors the blood and gives certain castes their abilities. That's it. Honestly, the troll blood color thing is one of the things that's so unique on its own, I don't feel the need to speculate much about it. That said, let's get back into the biological speculation. Let's talk about open versus closed circulatory systems. Human beings, like you, former President Jerry Ford, and Andrew Hussey, have closed circulatory systems. In other words, your blood is contained in veins and pumped through your bodies via a heart. On the other hand, open circulatory systems are different in that the blood is free-flowing throughout the body. This feature is commonly found in insects, spiders, prawns, and mollusks, and trolls. A feature of the open circulatory system, first of all, is non-red blood. That's important, because trolls have non-red blood, usually. Another feature is the way open circulatory animals bleed and heal. When a human sustains an injury, blood emerges by leaking, and slowly blood begins the healing process. On the other hand, when a closed circulatory animal sustains injury, since the blood inside isn't in a secondary chamber and pressurized within the skin, it bursts out all at once, much like we see on several occasions with trolls. The biggest hole in this theory is that open circulatory individuals always are small in size. This is because open circulation is less effective at transporting oxygen and nutrients. However, trolls are already shown to require fewer nutrients in their diet. As for oxygen, it's possible that they don't require as much for humans. As for oxygen, it's possible that they don't need or require as much as humans do for survival. It's possible that Alternia is more oxygen-rich, meaning less circulation is required, but that's unlikely due to trolls and humans cohabitating on the meteor and Earthsea comfortably, meaning that they don't require a different amount of oxygen than humans. Trolls can also lose a lot of blood. This, combined with the fact that they have what they refer to as a blood pusher, opens up some speculation that they might have some kind of limited circulation using their blood pusher organ. Or perhaps the blood pusher is actually some kind of blood-making apparatus instead, thus meaning that they can create blood quickly to replace it if it's lost. It's also possible that trolls might not have a circulatory system as humans or real-life creatures do. It's possible that their blood isn't really blood, but some kind of other substance that fills their bodies and fulfills a similar function in spite of different chemical composition. We can at least safely assume that they respirate oxygen and have some kind of blood analog. Finally, another interesting facet of biology that lends this credence is that trolls don't just bleed their blood color. Tears and other bodily fluids are also colored by their blood in a pale capacity. It's possible that this blood, combined with a solvent like salty water, is used to keep trolls cool and allows them to cry, like humans. Some have also said that their genetic material is also colored by their blood. 6. Romance. I've already discussed romance in a societal capacity in the canon video, so now I'd like to talk about it in a biological one. In other words, what biological needs does the social construct of romance fulfill? In the furry video, the theory was that since trolls were once independent of the mother grub, romance was a vestige of that system. But now we're incorporating the mother grub into the theory, so why do trolls need to reproduce with pairs at all? After all, mating pairs aren't needed with bees and ants. The males just inseminate the queen, that's all. There's no other male ants required. Well, it's probably still vestigial, but for another reason. Like I discussed with the mother grub portion, it's possible that at one point there might have been other mother grubs to facilitate genetic diversity. After all, if one mother grub had all the kids, things would get stagnant in the gene pool very quickly. Therefore, much like flowers can reproduce with their own selves or other members, trolls could mate with other members of the troll sex caste to increase genetic diversity. After the Condus eliminated other mother grubs, this pattern would continue even though they're all related. Meaning that it's likely that instead of natural evolutionary mutation, mutation is achieved by the Condus or the Jade Bloods, if at all. It's also possible that trolls have some other way of gene mutation other than gene mixing. Either way, incest doesn't appear to be an issue for their species. It still is for humans though, which is why I say, gross. 7. Secondary sex characteristics. On top of this, we should talk about another anomalous part of troll anatomy, most specifically, tits. Breasts aren't very prominent on trolls, other than trolls who are already fairly large like Chahut, so it's unlikely that these breasts are mammalian. As usual, there are a number of fan theories about this, such as how it's possible that they have some kind of body armor. This seems somewhat tenuous since only female trolls have them, but it would also lend credence to the comments that Carcat makes about girl games. Perhaps troll females are more hardy for some reason, either arbitrarily or not, partially due to their inborn body armor. What makes this worse is breasts are never mentioned except obliquely by name, rumble spheres. Much like horns, it doesn't seem that they serve any purpose at all. They were just stuck there because humans already had them. Female trolls are generally bigger and more aggressive though, which is cool. Put the Spike Spiegel quote here. 8. Retroreflective eyes. Retroreflective eyes refers to, in some animals, how the light reflects back through their retina in their eyes. You've probably seen this in the shining eyes of cats. It's likely that trolls have some form of this because their sclera is uniformly yellow instead of humans who have whites. So that means if you leave the flash on, trolls' eyes will glow. That's pretty funny. 9. Body temperature. I added this point because there's a pretty common headcanon that goes trolls' body temperatures go down as you go up the hemospectrum. Examining this, it seems unlikely that this would be the case if they had an open circulatory system and thick skin. Instead, they would probably be uniformly cold to the touch. This is because without a closed circulatory system, their skin would not have any body heat. It's possible that the different blood colors have different temperatures in and of themselves, but this theory doesn't hold up. Trolls on Alternia are also never seen wearing heat-sensitive clothing, meaning that either trolls are not sensitive to temperature at all, or that Alternia's temperature isn't at all variable like Earth's is. All in all, like most insects, they would be cold-blooded, meaning that their body heat would be lower than humans but still relatively warm. 10. Diet. Trolls eat bugs! They don't have agriculture, or at least we never see any, which has led many to theorize that they are carnivorous, but most specifically insectivorous. They don't eat loci, at least we never see them, and most of the food items seen in Hive Swap are either bug-themed or soda. It's probable that the insect population is higher on Alternia, meaning that they can eat more bugs that are readily available. Carbonated beverages are the only exception, with drinks like Tab and Faygo. Many have speculated that these have a soporific effect similar to humans and alcohol, and carbonation gets trolls drunk. There's nothing to back this up, I just like it. So yeah, trolls eat bugs and drink Faygo. In other words, they're living the dream. 11. Lifespan. In comic, it's stated that troll lifespans exist on a spectrum, with lowbloods living shorter lives. Much like the other points, I think it's unlikely, barring some magic in their blood that somehow extends or restricts their lives. In Candace's case, it's likely that magic is how she stays alive, because she's the thief of life. More likely, on a basic Trolls level, it's likely due to meddling from the Empress. After all, if lowbloods don't live as long, there are fewer to have to suppress. This is evidenced by the fact that no matter what type of blood a troll is, there's nothing to suggest that they have different maturation rates. It would be strange for two organisms with two different natural lifespans to mature at the same rate. Also, the lifespan info is obtained by Doc Scratch and Mindfang, and, well, let's just say they're not the most reliable narrators. It's likely that on Earthsea, all trolls live comparable lives. Nice. 12. Sea Dwellers. Sea Dwellers are weird. Why would only some members of a species be able to be amphibious? I've never seen this theory before, but it's based on the theory that there used to be more than one mother grub on Alternia. What if there was an amphibious mother grub that used to exist that gave birth to a subspecies of trolls who could breathe underwater? The violets and fuchsias would be rare because they're an offshoot subspecies that once existed before unification. This is somewhat tenuous. There's no real-world species which only some of its members are amphibious. In other words, violets and fuchsias are actually a subspecies that can interbreed. 13. Wings. The last little nugget is something that gets overlooked a lot. Wings. Wings exist on only a few trolls. 1. God-tiered trolls like Vriska and Mina, and 2. Rufio and the Summoner. The theory goes that for some reason, wings are removed from trolls at birth. This would go with what Vicair talks about. Terrestrial flight is forbidden on Alternia. Rufio and the Summoner might have somehow evaded the amputation process. Also, it's shown that god-tiering heals injuries, and that's certain to extend to amputated limbs like with Vriska. This theory falls down a little because of two reasons. First, this amputation would also have to occur on Bephoris, as none of the Bephorans have wings either. The second being that dream selves are also shown to have undesirable amputations removed, like Tavros' legs, and they do not have wings. Still, it's likely that wings are a natural feature that are, for some reason or another, very rare. And that's all. Researching this topic was incredibly fun. Most of it was pure speculation, of course, but I hope all this information being collected in one place will make for good inspiration for Fix. I, for one, am going to sleep to recuperate from Homestuck lore. Find me in a week. In summary, I'd just like to impress something. Hussey sucks ass at world building. In researching all this, it's incredibly clear how sparse and bare bones this all is to a hilarious degree. The guy can't write a cohesive world that isn't just gray Humalians, leaving fans to fill in those gaps. Let us never forget that. Even the additions made by Hiveswap and FriendSim were largely fan extrapolation before being co-opted into the games. Seriously, he hints at good world building, but when the time comes to actually deliver something, he laughs nervously and distracts the reader with superfluous bullshit. This is all to say, don't forget that everything contained in this video, the previous one, and hell, even the canon one, was all shit that Hussey did not come up with. I can't stress this enough. This was all fan speculation and my own extrapolation using my limited knowledge of biology. This doesn't have any bearing on Trolls, it's just funny how Hussey can't even write his own fucking comic. We have to pick up the reins and do it for him. On that note, thanks. In a post-Hussey Homestuck world, it's the work of you guys that make this video possible. That's to say, I appreciate the community's help in making this video possible in spite of the lackluster information that Hussey has provided. I'd like to thank my Patreons, Zach Vincent, Elizabeth, Luna, and Jojoro. Special thanks to my Super Silver Platinum Patreon, Kaleidoscope Mediator. If you sign up, you'll get access to early videos, bloopers, and my Discord chat. See you there. I'd also like to thank today's sponsor, the concept of a hug. Hug your friends. Hug your family. Today. Hugs. See you next time, folks. I love you.